If you pay attention to what is working and what's not, and you cut out the things that are not working, right? If you find segments of your list, you're like, I've never done a deal to this zip code or this county. Like, I've been marketing them for 3 years and I've spent $5,000 and I've never done a single deal to this area. Maybe it's not worth your time to market to that because you're spending all this money. And what I'm saying is if you're trimming the fat in all these different areas and carving out this area and that area, you're going to improve the overall performance of your marketing campaign. Hey guys, welcome back to the Probate House Guy Podcast. I am Brad Woodall, the Probate House Guy. Today we're going to do a little bit of a different episode. Going to be a solo episode today. I've got a little gap in the schedule here. I got like a bazillion people scheduled for next week to record podcasts, but we didn't have anybody record in the last week, and we had built up used up all the backlog of the other recordings. So I'm going to do a little solo episode today. That way you guys do have an episode. And I'm going to talk about something really important, which is numbers. Knowing your numbers, pay attention to your numbers, analyzing your numbers. If you are running a business, you need to make sure you are paying attention to your numbers, whether that's how your performance of your employees, the performance of your marketing, the performance of your finances. You need to make sure that you're paying attention to all of those things. And I'm very guilty of slacking on this sometimes, right? Sometimes life happens and we get busy, and you need to make it a point to pay attention to these things. You have to pay attention to these things, otherwise they can get away from you. So, for instance, like I have a sort of a fractional CFO. I use a fractional CFO service to help manage the finances of my business. And we had hired them last year to kind of help come in and kind of clean things back up and get things back in order and all that, because I kind of put the business on a little bit of an autopilot when my son got sick, and I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it, and it just kind of just surviving, right? When you're dealing with the trauma that we dealt with, I just kind of was, hey, let's just get through this. And we got through it, right? I'm on the other side, and we're coming out of it, and we're coming out strong, and all is good. So I wanted to talk to you guys, though, about managing all of your numbers and that sort of thing. So if you're interested, I use the Simple CFO service. I actually plan on having David Richter on the podcast soon, but I do use his service for the fractional CFO. There are some other services out there that offer that as well. But in terms of finances, you got that. And then let's talk about analyzing your team's performance. You need to make sure that your team has KPIs. We had a really good team meeting the other day. I've been kind of slacking on managing my team's KPIs. They know their KPIs. My team has been together for many years. They know what's expected of them. They know the numbers. I've been kind of slacking about holding them accountable to those numbers. So we had a team meeting the other day where we got into it and talked about it. And the last few days after the team meeting, my team has been like hustling and paying attention to this. It kind of breathed a new life into this, and I'm so proud of them for doing that. Like we actually just got another contract today. This week has been crazy. We've got a bunch of deals under contract this week. It was like when it rains, it pours, you know? So anyways, make sure that you're managing your team's KPIs. Make sure you set up numbers that you can manage and hold them accountable. What you measure grows. So now let's get into marketing. Let's talk about marketing. I want to actually share a little experiment that I did recently. And this experiment ties right into making decisions based off of the numbers and not just making decisions based off of your gut. Okay? Your gut can help you sometimes, but also the numbers don't lie. So I, in the past, have used some pay-per-lead services, right? I'm not going to name who I've used, but in the past, I used pay-per-lead service, tried them for a while, got a bunch of leads, got a deal out of it, basically broke even on it, and was like, nah, not worth my time. I'm not going to do that anymore because it really wasn't a big moneymaker, right? I got a deal out of it, but like I said, I think I broke even on the numbers when it came down to it at the end of the day for what I spent versus what I made. So I was like, nope, not worth it. And it's one deal. So a few months ago, I was at one of my masterminds, and we were talking about some of these pay-per-lead services, and there were some ideas thrown around and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? Let me just turn it back on. So like while I was there in the meeting, I turned my account back on, and I was like, but I'm going to try something different this time. Remember, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So this time I'm going to try something different. So what I did is, and I may be revealing this crazy secret, but I decided to set all of my bids to the lowest amount possible. They want you to bid them to the highest amount, so you're the winning bidder of the leads. Because I wanted to see if I would even get any leads at all if I set my numbers to the lowest bids. And it turns out I still got leads. Now, did I get as many leads as you normally would if you were the high bidder? No, I didn't. But I still got leads. And what I found out is that if you set your bid at, let's say, $250 for the lead, and you don't know how much competition you have, right? If you are the only person bidding on those leads, guess how much you're paying for those leads? $250. Well, guess how much if you set your bid at $75 a lead and you're the only person bidding for those leads at that particular given time? How much are you paying? You're paying $75. So I set my bids at the lowest amount possible just to see if I'd get leads, and I still got leads. So I'm going to share with you, this basically ran for a couple months. And during that 2-month period, we got a total of 28 leads. So we got 28 leads in that 2-month period. And right off the bat, within, I think it was like the third or the fourth lead we got, we almost got a deal. And I was like super excited because we went and we met with this guy at his place, made him an offer. He liked the offer. We shook on it. And then we sent him the contract, and then he like changed his mind and like he starts nickeling and diming and stuff. And he's like, well, you know, and having second thoughts and blah, blah, blah. So we just decided, you know what? Our number's our number. Take it or leave it. If you don't want it, that's great. If you want it, cool, sign the contract. Let's roll, you know? So he decided not to do a deal with us, but we still have him in follow-up. We're still following up with him regularly. So that was kind of exciting. But then, you know, we kept rolling. And so over this time, we got a total of 28 leads. We disputed 12 out of those 28 leads that they, based on their dispute criteria, were disputable, right? Whether they were wholesalers or whatever, you're allowed to dispute some of these. And we were granted 11 out of those 12 disputes. So we disputed 12 out of the 28. So that's a 42% dispute rate. Now keep this in mind, okay? When I turned it off before, one of the reasons I turned it off is because we were getting so many leads that my leads manager was we had to create a whole new process around disputing these leads and making sure we were disputing them in the allotted dispute time. Otherwise, we spent the money on it, right? Another thing that pissed me off too was it took them forever to give me my money back. So I'd give them $300 for a lead, and then I'd dispute it, and my dispute would be granted, but I wouldn't get a credit back to my credit card for like weeks after that. So like they're playing arbitrage with my money, right? So I was like, no, I ain't cool with that, right? So 12 out of the 28 leads, right? That's 42% dispute. We were granted 11 out of the 12. So and we set the bids down at $75 a lead. So that's $825 that was credited back to us in our pockets, okay? So over that time period, we spent a total of $2,625 on all of these leads, and then we got $825 back. So $2,625 minus $825 is $1,800. So we got $1,800 is what we spent on 28 leads. Okay, not terrible. So, or actually not 28, 16. So 1,800 divided by 16 leads is $112 a lead. Not too shabby, right? And you might ask, wait, I thought you were bidding $75 a lead. Well, I don't know if this was a system glitch or not. I found it kind of fishy. But on 2 different occasions during this time period, my bids in a few counties mysteriously creeped up a little bit, and I didn't change them. So I don't know what happens. I don't know what happened there, but I set them back down to 75, saved it, whatever. And then a couple weeks later, all of a sudden, a couple of the counties had crept back up again. I'm like, what the heck? I don't know what happened. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I'm super ADD, and maybe I accidentally clicked something or forgot to save something or whatever. But this happened twice, right? This isn't one time. This is 2 times, okay? So, little strange there, right? So I ended up spending more money, whatever, right? But let's see here. Did we get any deals? Yes, we got a deal. We're actually closing on a deal next week from these leads. So out of the remaining 16 leads that we did not dispute, crazy story, we have only been able to get a hold and in contact with 6 out of those 16 leads. So 10 of those 16 leads, we have not been able to get a hold of them. We have called them, texted them, emailed them 100 billion times, can't get anybody to call us back. And we are Johnny on the spot with answering these things, right? So we got 6, and then out of those 6, we got an almost deal and we got a deal. So that's not too shabby, right? Actually having those conversations and talking to someone, we got a deal out of it. And that deal should net me somewhere in the ballpark. My projections say $35,000, right? So let's say, hey, I go over budget a little bit or whatever. Maybe I make 30, but I only spent $1,800. So that's a pretty darn good return on ad spend. Now, that's only one deal, right? You can't make a trend out of one. But I decided to leave these on, and I'm going to continue to run this experiment and see if it generates me another deal. Because I'm okay spending $1,800 to get a $35,000 deal. Heck, I'm okay spending $1,800 to get a $10,000 deal, right? To me, as long as my return on ad spend is 3 to 4x or greater, I'm good with it. I'm going to keep rolling with it, right? I just have to pay attention to that return on ad spend and keep that in check. So now this rolls into the next conversation, okay? Looking at all of the rest of your data. You need to take your data points and analyze them. And what we do with our probate data is we get granular down to the individual probate prospect. So when we're doing our traditional direct mail analysis, where we do the old school way and we do the new school way, we get leads online. We generate leads online from our probateresource.com website. We run Google ads. We run Facebook retargeting ads. We run YouTube ads. We run all these things to generate leads, probate leads online from online sources. But we also do it the old school traditional way, the way we started doing it years ago, and we continue to do that. And by the way, we do this for other people too. So if you don't want to fool with any of this and you want someone else to run your marketing for you and you want to do the probate leads and get into probate leads, let's have a conversation about managing that for you. It's a 3-pronged approach. We do it through direct mail, the old school way, and we do it online through online ads, whether that's organic or SEO. And then we also do a social media aspect of it where we run some retargeting on social media on audience targeting. So anyways, we can manage all of that for you in-house and do that for you. So if you're interested in having a conversation, go to probatehouseguy.com, fill out the form. Anyways, let's get back to the conversation. So paying attention to these things and being able to slice and dice your numbers is critical. So we look at our probate data down to a granular level. So the actual probate quote unquote lead, I call it more of a prospect that you get, which is basically the filing of the probate. And we pay attention to a few key things. We pay attention to how long it took them to file the probate from the death. So how long from the date of death to the filing of probate. And we pay attention to that. And we also pay attention to how long it took them to call us, okay? From when they filed the probate till when they called our company. Now, obviously, you can only analyze the leads that you got because the people that didn't call you, you don't know how long it took them to call because they haven't called, right? It's infinity, right? But of the ones that did call you, how long did it take them to call, and how many of those turned into a deal, and why did they turn into a deal? We pay attention to that. We also pay attention to the physical location of the administrator of the estate or the personal representative compared to the decedent, the person who died. How far away do they live from one another? And some people might say, oh, well, just seems like the people that are far away would be the best. You're kind of right on that, but kind of not, okay? What I found in my analysis, I went back, and I look at this stuff minimum of yearly, but I just did a 5-year look back on 5 years worth of data and really drilled down into it. And what I actually found was that we still did a decent amount of deals from people where the addresses match. So where the decedent last address and the personal representative address was the same. We still did a decent amount of deals from them. So I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater and not market to them at all, because you're still going to get deals from those people. But what I did do is then I drilled down into that group of people and I said, okay, of the deals we did in these, did that personal representative really live at the house or did they live at a different address? And the answer was no. Actually, the majority of them, even though the address on the probate filing was the same, the PR actually lived at a different address. They just put the same address on the probate filing, but they actually lived a different address. And quite a few of them lived far away from the property. So how do you target that? Well, if it matches, then what do you do? Well, you have to segment your list out and you have to pay attention to how you're targeting them through your messaging, through your mail pieces or whatever, and target those audiences that way. So that's how we kind of do that. That means you still have to spend the money and you still have to mail them, but you can segment your audience a little bit and look at them a little bit differently. So pay attention to that sort of thing. And then we also pay attention to not only the address match, mismatch, and then the distance away. What else do we pay attention to here? Let me just jump over here to my data and give you all some tips here. So, and then you have to look at your ads, your return on ad spend for that. So don't just look at the number of leads and deals, but also look at what you're spending to get those deals, because you might find pockets within your audience where your return on ad spend is much lower or much higher. And how do you do that? Well, you have to get the data down to the granular level. You have to be able to say, this deal came from this lead, and then analyze your whole list. So I was analyzing tens of thousands of rows of probate data when I did this, and looking at, okay, I was able to calculate how much I spent in mail. So I went back to all of my mail and my mail house, and I said, okay, I mailed this particular record X amount of times, and each time I spent X amount of dollars. We break our data all the way down to that granular level. Now, doing this, if you're not an Excel whiz, this might be a little difficult, and I might be talking a little bit over your head here, but there are ways to do this. You can manage all this or analyze all this with some pivot tables and using Power Query in Excel to analyze this. But you got to break it down to that level, because you got to look at, you may find that, okay, people living more than 10 miles away from the property, and I'm just making this stat up. This is actually what the analysis said. But people living more than 10 miles away from the property, we mailed them X amount of times. We sent, X tens of thousands of pieces of mail to them, and we got X amount of deals. You have to look at the money you made from those deals and the money that you spent to mail to get those deals, and pay attention to that ROAS number. Pay attention to that return on ad spend. And what you may find is you may find certain segments of your marketing or of your list are actually kind of not that fruitful, but other parts are more fruitful. And if you trim out the fat of the unfruitful parts of your list, you will improve the overall performance of that list. So that's the way I look at it. I don't try to go in and find the honey hole or the silver bullet in there, because usually there's not. When you're doing marketing, it's about getting the right message to the right person at the right time with consistency. So if you pay attention to what is working and what's not, and you cut out the things that are not working, right? If you find segments of your list, you're like, I've never done a deal to this zip code or this county. Like, I've been marketing them for 3 years and I've spent $5,000 and I've never done a single deal to this area. Maybe it's not worth your time to market to that because you're spending all this money. And what I'm saying is if you're trimming the fat in all these different areas and carving out this area and that area, you're going to improve the overall performance of your marketing campaign by trimming the fat. We do the same thing in our Google Ads campaigns. Me and my ads manager that manages my Google stuff in-house, we look at these things and we pay attention to, okay, this keyword generated X amount of deals. Because we go back and when we get deals and we get leads, we loop those back into the Google sort of algorithm and say, okay, well, this keyword generated X amount of deals, or this keyword, we spent a lot of money to get this particular deal for this particular keyword. So let's not do that one anymore. You can almost do the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 principle, right? I've done that over the years with my marketing. I'll pay attention and say, okay, well, 80% of my revenue is coming from 20% of this. Okay, let's drill down into that. Or, 80% of my headaches are coming from 20% of my list. And you can manage your business that way. Whether you have, let's say you're not even, maybe you have another business and you're dealing with, like lots of clients. I did this with my landscaping business I used to have years ago. I would look at it and say, hey, I've got, let's say, this client is a pain in my butt, right? The amount of phone calls and headaches this one client creates for me, or these two clients creates for me, is not worth my time. So I'm going to fire these two clients this year. Or if you have a rental portfolio, maybe you have a portfolio of 20, 30, 40 properties or whatever. Every year you should look at your pain in the butt properties and sell them. I got this tip from a guy I know, and actually two different guys I know who have had some of them, they've sold some of the portfolios off, very sizable portfolios. And they do this every year. They sell the dogs. They find the properties that are a pain in their butt and they sell the dogs off. And they don't market, or they don't own them anymore. And then they use that money from that one to buy more properties. And each year they're just kind of culling a little bit of the herd, right? And overall, it's like if you've ever read the Mike Michalowicz book, The Pumpkin Plan, it's the same way that a farmer grows the prize pumpkin. He cuts off the bad stuff on the vine so that the vine sends more energy to the pumpkin that's going to be the prize pumpkin, right? It's the same concept in your business. You need to trim out and cull the crap that's affecting it, because if you trim that out, the overall performance of everything grows. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Like I said, we do that with our marketing and all aspects of our marketing. Like I said, we do that in our Google Ads campaigns. We do that. We pay attention to traffic on our website. We'll pay attention. We'll make changes to a website. Maybe we'll change some keywords, or I do this on my YouTube videos. Obviously, you might be watching this on YouTube. I pay attention to my YouTube videos and, oh, this video generated a lot more traffic and then this one didn't. I'm always analyzing it to figure out what's working and what's not. Is this generating what I want it to generate? Or sometimes I might find something that generates something that I wasn't expecting, and then I dive into that, right? You always have to be paying attention to those sort of things so that you are managing your business well. So I hope that is helpful to everyone. I know this is a little bit different of a podcast episode, but I felt like it would be important to cover this if you are managing a business and if you're doing marketing, or maybe you don't want to do marketing. Like I said, if you want us to manage your marketing, give me a call. Love to chat about it. We'd be happy to do that for you. But if you still want to manage it yourself, you need to pay attention to those things. Really drill down in your list and drill down to a granular level and figure out what parts are performing. And the best way to measure performance is not necessarily the large amount of deals that you're doing. Because I see a lot of people, like, for instance, I was guilty of this. Years ago, I was marketing to all these different lists, right? I was like, this was in the day where like everyone's like list stack and list and do this. So I had like this cool list with all these like stacked things. And I'm like hitting these guys from doing direct mail. And we had done some cold calling to some of these lists. And I was trying I was running Facebook ad campaigns with custom audiences to these things. And I'm running all these things. And later on, and this is actually what got me focused into the probate niche. This is why I decided to really focus in the probate niche, is I was analyzing the data and analyzing the performance. And I was like, wait a second. I'm doing all these things and I'm getting a deal or two here and there. But most of my deals are coming from probate. Most of my deals are coming from this one source, and my best deals and my most amount of revenue are coming from this one source. So why am I wasting my time on all these other things and not just focusing on this? So that's what actually shifted me in the probate world. I still do deals in other venues. I still, like I mentioned in other videos, I still get deals from my websites. They still generate leads. All my websites are Carrot websites. Carrot websites are awesome. You do have to modify them. They're out of the box. They're not going to, you can't have high expectations. You do have to customize them, and I've customized mine over the years. But you need to make sure that you're paying attention to those sort of things, paying attention to what's working and what's not, and then really measuring that and paying attention to what's generating your revenue and what are you spending to generate that revenue. And if you cull out the ones that maybe aren't performing as well, like I said, the overall performance of the whole thing matters, because then what you could do is maybe expand your area. Maybe you're focusing on a specific geographic area. Maybe you want to expand your geographic area and go a little bit further out, because if you know where to cull out, like let's say, I don't even market to this one segment of my list anymore. I don't send them any mail anymore. Maybe you add some more counties to your list and you market to a much larger, broader area, but you still keep focusing on those key aspects, and only you can figure out what those key aspects are through trial and error. But if you focus on those key aspects and say, these segments are generating the most deals, okay, well then add more counties and only focus on that. And then you might land more deals in that other county. And as long as you are putting in, let's say your ROAS is 3 or 4x or more, you put in $1 and you get that many more dollars out. As long as you're getting more dollars out than you're putting in, you're in good shape, right? Now, don't let that totally fool you though. You also need to bake in, and this is where your accountant and your CFO comes into play, is make sure once or twice a year you are accounting for your overhead into your deals. What is your total cost per deal? How much is your total cost, including all of your overhead? And if you did 10 deals, let's say your total costs for the year were like non-deal related, so non-marketing related expenses, like I'm talking about subscriptions and blah, 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 like rent and all these they call them sort of fixed costs or non-variable costs in the business world. So all these other costs, let's say it costs you $50,000 in a year. Well then, and you did, let's say, 50 deals in a year. Well, you need to take, 50,000 and you need to attribute another $1,000 per deal and your overall cost. So you do need to pay attention to those numbers too, and bake that into what is your total cost per deal. Because if you are not looking at that, you may think you're doing good, but in fact, maybe your overhead is really, really high and you're not making as much per deal as you could make. I know a lot of people who had these big businesses with lots of employees, and they were doing lots and lots of deals, and their top end revenue was really, really high. We're making $2 million a year, but they had so much overhead that their profit per deal was lower with the big team, much lower with the big team, and they cut back a little bit and they trimmed and scaled their business back a little bit, and they ended up making more money than they made before and living a much simpler life because they didn't have to manage all of these other people and deal with all these headaches and deal with the fact of, okay, well, just to keep the lights on, it's going to cost me, $50,000 a month or whatever your number is. Maybe it only costs them $20,000 a month to keep the lights on, and maybe they make a little bit less top in revenue, but they're making more profit. So you need to pay attention to that. So anyways, that's enough for today. Guys, we got some really, really cool guests coming up We got more attorney episodes coming up next week. I know just next week we've got someone coming in from Tennessee. We're going to be doing we have a probate attorney coming on from Tennessee. We've got Virginia, California, and the California guest is actually a special guest. I'll let you guys learn about what else she does, but excited to have all of them on. Also, we've got Oregon and Washington coming on soon. So those are coming up really soon here in the coming weeks. So I hope you guys stay tuned. If those are your states, we're going to have that probate attorney on for your state talking about probate stuff in that particular state. And we're continuing to get more and more attorneys on. And then we'll continue to do our real estate investor episodes. And if you want me to do more of these kind of solo topic episodes, let me know. So, all right, thanks, guys. I'm Brad, that Probate House Guy. Thanks for joining in today. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.